Let's do it, Derek. That's what you just said right before we hit that go live button. And here we are.
Totally.
Happy Thursday.
That's great to see you again. I'm really excited for today's episode. And I think because there is so much for us to talk about, we want to get right to it. So, our thanks to Allison Tate for providing us with a question about how do you get your website to be doing more work for you, particularly if you have lead magnets embedded on your homepage. So, this is Allison's site. And you know me, I'm always going to want to start with all of the incredibly positive things that are going on here. And there's one that I want to point out, knowing that our time is limited. Once you begin to scroll, I mean, we see it right at the start. I know, Katie, you had talked about the inclusivity in terms of the video and the
Yeah.
imagery. Hugely important to give that kind of thought to the representation, how you're presenting yourself, attracting your ideal client, but also for any advisor who's wondering what the relationship is between brand voice and copy, this is a site for you to go to because as we scroll down, you're going to see Allison's voice is so present here. We get such a clear sense of where she's coming from, and I love it.
Right? Isn't it great? And I love we've got, her picture here so we kind of see her straight away without making the site, about her, but yeah, like you said that voice just comes through,
Yeah,
as we keep coming in. I mean, we see her all in here, it's just
I know.
voice without audio. Like that's actually really impressive, right? I love doing video, but I was like, she did this so well.
I
As
know.
we just keep scrolling down, people can definitely identify, see themselves in here. Derek, I know you can't resist making one comment here.
I'm a little concerned about copyright, right? And again, it's a great it's a great GIF, and it fits the context here, but always be careful, advisors, about incorporating this type of content. And if you are able to get permissions, then go for it. But make sure you have your bases covered.
Yep, absolutely. Allison, so great to see you here.
Totally.
Feel free to jump in with any questions as we scroll down. And we're still going. I mean, we've scrolled, we're only at the halfway point, Derek.
Well, and remember, the question here is how can I get prospects to download the lead magnet that I've created here? How can I get them to take the quiz that I've spent all of this time developing and then embedding on my site? So, again, we're going, still no sign of this quiz. Ah, there it is.
There it
It's
is.
it's at the very bottom of a text heavy page. So, one of the things to be thinking about here, and again, I love if we just had this as a still, this is fantastic.
Yes. Allison, I
What,
love this picture. I love the it's warm, it's welcoming, it's friendly, it's, fabulous.
yeah, it absolutely is. And that is the word for it. It is totally fabulous. In terms of prompting your ideal client to take the quiz, one of the things that Katie and I have been talking about is this notion of constructive redundancy. If a version of this or some other interactive component shows up above the fold on the homepage, so maybe right below that hero, the hero image or the video at the very top of the site and the tagline, if we get some interactive prompt, possibly it's a button that creates an internal link, takes you to another page on the site, boosts your SEO at the same time, or it's simply a version of take the quiz at the top. If we scatter references to that throughout the page, trim down the copy so that it's clear for somebody to get from the top of the site or the page to the bottom, let's say there are 3 iterations of that prompt, and each of them is framed with a call to action that's compelling, but also reinforces that interactive component, chances are you're going to get more people taking that quiz.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reinforce it, Alistair, yep, great point you made, Derek, about copyright. It is so commonly overlooked, and this has been a theme that we've had. We've seen this in several videos and advisors using copyrighted material,
Yeah.
and this has actually been a big issue with music over the last several years. There have actually been some big cases of people using copyrighted music in videos, and they've really cracked down on that. So just because they haven't cracked down on it yet doesn't mean somebody won't do it at some point. So
Yeah.
that is overlooked but important. Elise, thanks for joining us here. Totally agree. Love how Allison provides marketing information in those text messages, relating to
Yeah.
her ideal client. So I just want to make sure, that people really see what we're talking about here. Like you can click on all of these. And how cool is it that like Allison's picture? So she's like, I am here answering it, which is very cool. That's an interactive thing that I don't actually think I've seen done this way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, it provides that level of interactivity. That's really important. Now, I don't want to go too far off the rails here, but I did want to mention there's a historic precedent for this, and it comes from a sort of strange context. Betty Crocker, when they were doing their original product research for their boxed cake mixes, the one thing that they discovered is that people weren't doing, they weren't buying, and they weren't actually baking out of a box until they wound up including that kind of strange step that you wonder about, cracking an egg, where you feel like you have a sense of agency. You're able to take ownership of that experience, and it doesn't feel like you just poured some stuff in a bowl, dumped some water on it, threw it in the oven. It feels like you kind of baked something. Very, very similar in terms of the customer or the client journey here. Give them opportunities to engage, and you're going to be rewarded with that engagement.
Yeah, and that gets right back to what you were saying, right? If we can stick that right up here, I mean, if it can show up above the fold or at least like right below it. I mean, I love this language here, but I think there's still maybe an opportunity. Put that quiz right there, right? Allow people to crack that egg to
Yeah.
get involved. And then, reinforcing that throughout with a couple of those, take our quiz. And then, Derek, the other thing that Allison mentioned is, how do I get people to either take my quiz or download my tax planning guide?
Mhm.
And I will say, we were looking for it. Like, you chatted with Allison. I was like, okay, where is this tax planning guide?
Yeah.
And I kept looking. And when we first got here, right, my brain goes to the upper right and it's like
Yes.
schedule a call. And so, right above the fold, this is where a lot of people, not everybody's even going to scroll down. So, this part is really, really important on a website. And that is the action currently, being requested of people. And then we
Mhm.
have the login button that is just as big. And so, my recommendation, if you want people to take that other action, that lower step of either downloading a tax planning guide, which we'll look at in a second, or taking that quiz, put that as the action there, right?
Mhm.
That way they're not going all the way to schedule a call. Get them to take that action. And then you can follow up because you're going to get their email after that. Follow up and then invite them to schedule a call and make that login button a little bit smaller. What do you think,
Well,
Derek?
and also too, just in terms of the way that we're custom at, we as humans and all of the bots who are crawling your site 24/7, they're scanning left to right, top to bottom. So navigation, although it's one of those little things on a site, has an outsized impact. And so if schedule a call gets moved over to the right, particularly if the login button then is shrunk to match the, say, the homepage navigation button,
Yeah.
you're then going to your eye's going to scan. If that is ultimately the action or one of the actions you want a prospective client to take, you're giving them the opportunity right at the top of that page in one of the most conspicuous places. So again, small detail, small little tweak, but just rearranging the navigation and making sure that it scans from left to right in a logical way that also replicates the client journey you're taking them on with your copy and your content from top to bottom on each page of your site as well.
Yeah, and we're almost coming up on 10 minutes. We've got about 45 seconds left here, so we want to make sure, right, as we're looking for this tax guide. In all
Yes.
honesty, I didn't know where it was. It wasn't on the homepage. I scrolled down to the footer and didn't find it there. And so, I actually went searching for it. So
Mhm.
clicked on the tax strategy page. Totally love that. Yay, tax said
Yeah.
no one ever. Right. Allison, I love how much of your personality comes through here. And I
Yeah.
love that it's a very clean site and has a lot of white space. But again, we keep scrolling down and scrolling down. Maybe a copyright thing there, scrolling, right? I'm not seeing this. And
Mhm.
so that's the thing is, one other thing to think about, and we'll maybe touch on this in a future episode, is having something like a heat map where you can actually see where are people stopping on your site? Where are they spending more time? Are they even scrolling down? Because we're still not there. We're still scrolling. Now we find it
Yeah.
at the very bottom. And so if not enough people are downloading it, it could be because they're not actually even getting to the bottom of that page to see this. And you spend all this time and effort putting together this guide. Let's move it up that page, get people to interact a whole lot sooner.
Absolutely. Great points, Katie. And one of the points that you made there is this is absolutely an episode that I suspect will lead to others in our series because there is so much both positive and so much constructive in terms of feedback that we're seeing on this site. So, Allison, again, thank you so much for providing us the opportunity to take a look at really for what so many advisors is a critical step in parking a website and having a website do work for you in terms of bringing in new business. So absolutely brilliant in terms of the voice, the personality, the brand. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, and Allison, right, you mentioned not many people even view that page. Again, they're not even going
Yeah.
to that page. So maybe put that somewhere on the homepage as well, right? If you've got that tax guide, you're talking a lot about taxes, maybe play around, right? Do some testing for a couple of months and see if they start to download it, if it gets moved somewhere. Tessa, thank you for joining us today. Elise, totally agree. That fine line between being salesy, giving access, having that in multiple spots. Allison, so glad you agree with the insights. Let us know, right? And we would actually love to hear, right? Because Derek, we were talking about maybe doing like a where are they now sort of episode, right? So just to sneak peek, right? If you make these changes, Allison, we'd love to revisit this in a
Yeah.
few months and say, okay, great, these changes were made. How is that resulting in improved performance there? Kina, it's so great to see you here.
Yeah.
So, Derek, any final thoughts?
I just can't wait to keep this going. I am so grateful to all of the advisors who are reaching out to us with questions like this that not just provide you with specific insights, but also help others in the industry to do what they do even better. So, Allison, again, thank you so much. And Katie, I can't wait to see you next week.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. And as always, if you have questions on your video, your website, your LinkedIn post, how things are performing, let us know. That is what this entire show is about. It's here for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your engagement, and we'll see you